You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the third episode in Boobies and Newbies' annual special, The 12 Days of Boobsmas. That's right, we've barely begun our month-long sextravaganza, celebrating all things holiday romance. So hang on to your stockings because all December long, we are delivering 12 holiday-themed romances, 12 mini podcasts, and 12 romance giveaways, all right here on Boobies and Newbies. And speaking of our romance giveaways, be sure to keep up with us across social media at Boobies Podcast across the channels, except on TikTok where you'll find me at Real Kelly Ray, as I will be sharing ways to win around the clock. Please join me and a guest live on Instagram every Friday in December, where I'll be announcing the next batch of giveaway winners. The first of which just happened, but our next round of giveaway winners will be announced this upcoming Friday, December 9th, so I hope to see you there. If for some reason you've missed out on any of the previous Boobsmas episodes, or you just want to go back and binge all the Boobies and Newbies you can always catch up by listening on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. In addition to this year's Boobsmas reads, I'd also like to take a quick moment to shamelessly plug my own holiday novella, Meet Me in Los Feliz, which is available now. So be sure to pick up a ebook or paperback copy for yourself and, maybe another romance reader in your life. And last but not least, if you feel like spreading a little extra dose of Boobsmas cheer, you might consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or supporting the podcast on Patreon, both of which would certainly make my Christmas a little extra merrier. And now on to today's Boobsmas festivities. Joining me today is returning Boobsmas guest and one of my all-time favorite internet friends. Although someday soon, I hope to actually meet her in person. She's a writer, reader, YouTuber, and the founder of the Cozy Mystery Book Club. Please join me in welcoming back Angela Maria Hart.
Oh, that might be the best introduction I've ever received. We're actually doing video right now, and I'm sure you can see me blushing. Oh, it's so sweet. And as she's saying, post reviews, please do, because this woman is absolutely incredible. And this content, she's doing this out of the goodness of her heart. I love the way she approaches things. And yes, there are a backlog of episodes to listen to. So if you are new, if this is your first 12 days of Boobsmas, you also have previous years to go back and revisit. So you can get all of the Christmas romance feels all month long if you'd like.
Yeah, and Angela, I think this is I believe it's our third Boobsmas episode together. So even just a backlog of episodes with Angela on Boobies and Newbies, you can go back and hear. We've done historical holiday romance together. We've done contemporary. We've got some more contemporary coming up in this episode now. So there's plenty to be had because I really do try to cover a little bit of everything when it comes to holiday romance, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah. We have our first Kwanzaa romance coming out this year on Boobsmas.
Oh, that's so happy. Oh,
super excited about that one. And then, of course, aliens, because yeah.
Of course. Ruby Dixon is in this Renaissance phase. I remember reading her in 2015, and all of a sudden in the last 2 years, she's exploded. I know that they have their own alien Christmas version. There's a little novella, if you ever wanted to shout that out. I don't know if it's called Aftershocks, but they definitely have a Christmas novella.
I haven't read that one.
Oh, yeah. She has extras. There are a couple just on her website, and there's actually one that is just a PDF download available on Ruby's website. And again, because I've been reading her that long, that's why I know that. So fun fact for all you people who love the Ice Planet Barbarian series, there are extras over on her website. So if you want more alien love, it's there for you.
There you go. Yeah, honestly, I've been saying it all Boobsmas long so far. I love that in the last couple of years I've had several alien holiday romances to choose from, but I have yet to read monster holiday romance.
Mm.
And so that is my thing I am putting out into the universe to manifest for 2023. I would love to see monster holiday romance. And I know that there's probably some that's already out there. In fact, I have several indie author friends who are publishing an anthology of monster holiday romance that by the time this episode comes out will have probably already come out. And so I'll put a link in the show notes for today. But yeah, that's 2023. I want to see holiday monsters.
It sounds like you have your first TBR for next year's 12 Days of Boobsmas right there.
Yeah, and if I say it now, that means everybody out there who writes monster or is interested in writing monster, you have a year to make this happen.
You just reminded me. I know people talk about The Secret, but there's an episode of Parks and Recreation where Leslie Knope is like, I'm putting it out there like The Secret. That's what you did. You pulled your Leslie Knope. You're like, I'm putting it out in the universe. We're going to see what happens.
It's the Nope Hope. I want that Nope Hope out there.
And you do have the Leslie Knope quality. You do take on a lot, and you are accomplishing a lot of things. So this reference is kind of on point for you.
That is a compliment. Like, I don't know how anybody else would interpret that, but if anybody is like, you're bringing like Leslie Knope energy, that is to me one of the highest compliments available. So I will 100% accept that and be proud of that, and honestly throw it right back your way, because every year, as I do the 12 days of Boobsmas, you also do the 12 days of Cozies. So for anybody who for some reason hasn't listened to one of our previous episodes together or has yet to discover the wonderful world of Cozy Mysteries, which I adore, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Cozy Mystery Book Club and also the 12 days of Cozies?
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm so honored to be here and to be chatting with you. And for those of you who are interested, maybe you would like the crossover episodes. Kelly's joined me as a virtual co-host for the live stream book club events. And I'm already going to be asking her back for 2023 and give her the option to come back and be another guest host again. So I'm hoping she'll say yes. And hopefully...
You don't even need to ask. Like, let's just cut that off right now. It's a hell yes, anytime, any day.
So in other words, when we're done recording this, we're going to be choosing months for her to be joining.
Exactly.
So we'll keep you posted on that front. So 12 Days of Cozies has been in the works for such a long time now. This is a reoccurring anniversary at this point. And so this year, I am doing a cross-platform. So every morning there is an email newsletter, and I have been working so hard on making unique content. There are bingo boards, there are adult coloring book pages, there are Instagram story templates. There are so many things just in the newsletters, plus links to all of the day's events, and links to blog posts that guest authors and sleuthers are posting on the book club website. And also the newsletter, just by opening it, you're entered to win either an ebook or an audiobook. So just opening the email newsletter is a giveaway opportunity.
Giveaways aplenty. And also I will say, Angela creates the cutest stickers, the cutest swag. In fact, I know nobody can see it, but I'm currently drinking from my adorable, is it Perlock Holmes?
So it is Perlock. She's our mascot. So we have our logo, Moriarty. Sherlock's nemesis, Moriarty, is now Moriarty TEA. And so he's also done up in his Christmas best with our new logo, which is I had done from a freelance graphic artist. And then I always refer to her as Perlock Claus during the holidays. And
Perlock Claus.
Like she will be on the Instagram. And I also... because I'm me and I love the Cozy Mystery Book Club, I'm always doing extras. And so Kelly is actually, this is a perfect reference. So we talked about the Library Lovers Mystery Series, and there was Sherlock Hamster. So of course I had to have a hamster drawn up. So maybe this year there will be a post showing off a hamster in his Christmas best, dressed in his Sherlock Christmas garb. So that might be coming, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's also going to be giveaways on Twitter, Instagram. So 12 days, 3 giveaways a day, plus a giveaway at the end. So if you post something on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag, you're also entered for that giveaway. Plus, authors are going to be joining the Twitter because I am hoping, fingers crossed, Twitter is still going to be in existence and people are going to be enjoying it. So every evening, there are Twitter reading sprints from 5 to 8. And then afterwards, from 8 to 9 p.m. EST, There are a lot of cozy mystery authors. There are 40 plus authors taking part in the Shearers of Romance.
Wow.
So there are authors every single night who are going to be there live, ready to answer all of your cozy questions, talk about their books, and we have some pretty big name authors. So definitely authors you've read before, authors who you're going to find love. So I always refer to it as you're getting to meet your favorite cozy mystery authors and your soon to be favorite cozy mystery authors.
I love that. And it's such a fun community that you've created with Cozy Mystery Book Club. You know, it's a lot of hard work, obviously, but it's also a lot of fun, I'm sure, for you. And I know it's a lot of fun on the reader end and being able to, you know, be a part of it and engage with some of the authors, and not just the authors too, but the other people who are readers, who are interested in talking about cozy mysteries, who are more than happy to give you a book recommendation or, you know, anything. So it's a lot of fun. I love reading cozy mysteries, and I think, like you said, there's a lot of crossover between mystery readers in general as well as romance readers, and especially if you're a small town romance lover, I think you will love cozy mysteries because you get a lot of those elements that you find in small town romance. And when do we read a lot of small town romance? When it's small town Christmas romance.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's just the perfect time where if you haven't read a cozy mystery, this would be a great time of year to do it. Plus, they always have the cutest damn punny titles
Oh, yeah.
in the world, which, I mean, that's what gets me to read half of them.
Well, that was one of the things with our book for today. They actually used the word punny in the book. And I'm going, oh, this
Yeah.
is a perfect book for me. The reference, they have a donut shop called Kiss My Donut. I'm going, oh, she needs to write a cozy mystery down the line or have some sort of crossover event because this is right in the realm of what cozy mystery readers love and look for.
This book could have been a cozy mystery. Like, honestly, you're totally right. I can see, and honestly, what a great way to segue into talking about today's book. But I do think that in a different world, this could have been a cozy mystery. And I can definitely see this author writing it. And so it is something that Codi Hall, author of There's Something About Mary, if you are listening and you do, you know, you haven't thought about it, please do, because I would love to see your cozy mystery version of a story like this. So,
And I think she really could do it because I really enjoyed this book. I'm just going to throw that out there right away. But a lot of the references and those fun moments, because we have fun with animals in this book, she has an adorable dog, and of course cozy mystery readers, we love dogs, we love cats, but we also have hens and we have reference to other animals, and of course we have the children component. She definitely could do a cozy mystery starting tomorrow. She's got the writing chops
yeah.
for it.
Well, and we definitely still have some holiday things to discuss, but since we're already talking about it, I will just go ahead and mention that today's read we're going to be discussing is There's Something About Mary. I'm going to give you a hint on how they spell Mary in this holiday romance. Just think about that for a moment. By Codi Hall, and this contemporary Christmas romance was published in originally November 2021. I think it came out as an Audible original first. And I didn't listen to the audiobook, but I will say the Audible originals that I have listened to have been very fun in the past. But people who listen to this podcast know that I'm not a big audiobook listener. However, I do think this would make a good audiobook. And as a Kindle edition, it's available on Amazon for $7.99. It's also the second book in Codi Hall's Mistletoe romance series, though each book can 100% be read as a standalone. And I tried to find out if there's any more books planned in the series. I didn't see anything to mention any others coming out. I would not be surprised, though, if we do see more from the Winters family, who is the main family that this book focuses on. Would not be shocked if there was more in the future, because we've definitely got a fun group of characters. There's a family, there's sisters and brothers and, you know, friends who work in town. So I would not be shocked if there were more books to come. And honestly, I've already kind of got one in my head of where I'd love the series to go next. So we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, I already have my suspicion with whom she's already trying to set up the
Yes.
characters. She very clearly has a certain brother and sister in mind, not in the
Mm-hmm.
incestuous way like Flowers in the Attic that I just said that as, but the leading man's brother and the leading lady's sister. There's definitely some
Yes.
chemistry there. The tattoo bad boy brother who comes to town, he definitely
Oh,
catches the eye of Mary's sister, who calls him a hottie. The way it's written in the book is very adorable and cute. It is not how you spell the word hottie whatsoever, but you know exactly how she's pronouncing it. She definitely has an attraction to him, and she actually gets him to dress up as an elf in their Christmas parade. So
yes.
clearly, he's willing to go the extra mile for her. So I'm waiting to see that romance book.
I'm still also stuck on the it's not flowers in the attic. And now my mind can't help but think like flowers in the attic, but make it Christmas. And that is not this book. That is not what we're talking about. But of course, that is where my sick, demented mind went. So I'm just going to wash that right out.
I
And
tend to talk like a Gilmore Girl. I have all the pop culture references ready. So even the title of this book, I almost felt as if there needs to be a little disclaimer of it has nothing whatsoever to do with the movie. There's something
with the
about
movie,
Mary.
there's something about Mary. Yeah, exactly. Like, because if you just say it aloud, like we are on this podcast, I just want to make it clear Merry, like obviously, as in like Merry Christmas, because, you know, we love a punny holiday title. So yeah, no Farrelly brothers, no Ben Stiller,
But there's
none of
nothing,
that.
even in regards to the plot. This is something with
No.
romance books and even cozy mysteries where we have titles that pay homage to other works, but yet they have absolutely nothing to do with those stories. They're just a clever
Nothing.
play on words.
That's fine. I mean, I wrote a holiday book called Meet Me in Los Feliz, and the whole reason I went with the title was it made me think of, I was trying to think of holiday songs and movies, and I thought of Meet Me in St. Louis,
I got
and I wanted like the same amount of syllables. It's like, does my book have anything to do with the Judy Garland Meet Me in St. Louis? Absolutely not. Like, the only thing they have in common is Christmas, and I guess maybe a little bit of Hollywood, but that's pretty much it.
But it's true, and it's one of those things where as long as you don't open something thinking it's related to that movie or book,
Right.
you're fine. I mean, it's just a really cute title though, and I love the title of your novella, and I liked the title of
Oh,
this book
thank you.
too. I mean, the fact that we have a main character named Mary, and then all of her brothers and sisters have the Christmas names.
Yep.
Even Clark actually has a Christmas connotation because I myself named a male protagonist, my male lead Clark, because of the Christmas connotation. So I know that explicitly. I did the research. Every single character in this book has a Christmas name. It was
Yeah.
cute to have it in the title. I thought that was a nice little
It
way to tie
is.
that.
And it just shows you're carrying it through, you know, thematically, like throughout the entire story. It's not just like a one off, because I will say, I do get a little annoyed when like every holiday romance I pick up has either a Holly, Noel, or Mary. I find those to be like, and I've even read ones where her name is Christmas. I've read ones where like his like last name is Kringle. I mean,
Yep.
we get it. I get it. It's Christmas, but sometimes you don't want to be like hit over the head with Christmas. Whatever. Maybe it's just me, because I know some people love that kind of stuff. So I'll be the Grinch if that's the role I'm being cast
Well, I
as.
kind of think of it in two camps of if you embrace the Christmas, which this book does, you either embrace
Yes.
it wholeheartedly or don't. Admit that. Just say it's going to be either
Yes.
like eventually you're going to build up to the Christmas or it's going to be hinted at. So it's either almost full throttle because there's almost no middle ground for me. It's either Christmas or it's not. And this book
I would agree
definitely
with
is like
that.
all of the Christmas feels and vibes.
I think that's the perfect way to think of it, is like pedal to the metal. So, well, in keeping with the conversations about the holidays, what is your favorite or one of your favorite holiday traditions or memories?
Oh, there's so many amazing things about the holidays. And my parents always did a great job trying to make it feel special because it really is just the three of us. Because I'm an only child. So I never really had the brothers,
Same
sisters
here.
wake me up, jumping on the bed. Oh, you're going to watch out for Santa Claus while I try and take the photo. There's so many movies I've seen where the brother sister or the sister sister relationship plays a
Yeah.
key role in the Christmas experience. So I think the fact that my parents never really let that come into play is something I'm really grateful for, and kind of just keep in mind when you say your memories, because that is something, my mom would do she always pretended Santa came well into the years when I knew Santa there was no Santa, but I almost felt like I was playing along for her benefit more than my own.
Yeah,
But it was so much fun,
absolutely.
she played the Santa role and put the presents out, and I definitely
Hmm.
remember baking the cookies, and I remember when I was in kindergarten, they had reindeer food, or they put together, it's almost ridiculous when you look at it as an adult. You put sprinkles in with oatmeal mix, and you're supposed to mix the bag so that you throw it onto the lawn so that the reindeers see like the sparkles up from the sky, and they see the
Oh my
victory and they
God.
don't miss your house. And so I remember dancing in the yard, throwing all of it everywhere, and I was had so much fun because I was so little and I thought that was the best thing in the world. So there's so many fun things about the holidays.
Yeah, it is funny, I will say, especially when you do reach adulthood and like you and I, we're two unmarried women in our 30s, where you definitely have to start creating some of your own. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but you start creating your own holiday memories and traditions. And I also like I know I think about it all the time where I'm like, okay, in the eventuality that I have a house or a condo or something in the next few years, and in the eventuality that I have a partner or somebody that I want to share a space with, like I think about, oh well, what are the things that like I want to do, that like I want to create as memories. But I know that's something I've done in the last few years, because I still do celebrate where it's just me and my parents on
Yeah,
Christmas morning. I started ordering this subscription box from a company called Universal Yum.
that is a
And
great name.
it's so great. They do snacks from around the world. And so, like, every month they do a different country. It'll be like, oh, January is Italy, February is Greece. And I don't do it throughout the year. However, we're going on like the third or fourth year where I order their holiday box,
Ooh,
and it's got snacks and treats from a bunch of different countries in it. And it's kind of like the perfect like intro, like, oh, if you like this, then you should subscribe to our
yeah.
box year round. And I don't, but I look forward to it, because then what my parents and I will do is like we open up all of them and we do like a little taste test kind of thing, and you get to like rank which ones you like the best, and there's little information on like where all of them are from. And we're such a foodie family that I just thought it would be like something fun that we could do together. And I think it's become kind of like one of our newer holiday traditions. So it just goes to show, it doesn't have to be something you started as a kid. It can be something that you guys create as adults.
I also think there's something to not feeling badly if you can't do it every year. I mean, when
Yes.
COVID happened and people weren't able to meet with their families one on one, they did virtual. And one of the things I did was I put together boxes. I did one for my dad and one for my mom. And I lived in DC at the time. So whenever I did something touristy, I would buy my mom, she collects shot glasses. I would buy her a shot glass from that place.
I love
Buy
it.
my dad a baseball cap, or he loves to golf. So I buy him golf balls or something. And so I mailed I mailed the boxes early because I didn't want the Christmas rush to delay them and
Right.
have them come after the fact. And so they actually opened the boxes with me in advance, and they were able to enjoy the items. And then on Christmas Day, I ended up, they sent me a couple things in advance, and so then I ended up opening it on Christmas. So it's kind of like we got 2 days out of it almost by doing the
I love
virtual.
that.
So it worked out really well. And I have a fur baby. His name's Maximus. Technically, I call him Max. He's 5 pounds. He even got his own little subscription with my mom sent him his own treats, a special Christmas blend, I might add. So he was very happy little camper too. So the parents were thoughtful, even with the fur grandbaby. So it just worked out. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a very different type of Christmas. So even if someone didn't have their yearly moment, I think it's okay to just say, okay, well, we're going to pick up again where we left off the previous year. So
Yeah.
that's something I'm hoping people keep in mind and kind of give themselves permission with.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to mention, because we know people will feel guilty. I mean, I know I do, if it's like you don't meet certain expectations that really you've just set for yourself, not even like that are coming from somebody else. So, no, you're right. Give yourself grace, and whatever works for you works for you. You don't have to do the same thing every year, especially if it's not doing you any favors. So, yeah, that's a great thing to keep in mind as we head into the holidays. So, excellent note. And I think with that, it's time for us to play a little game before we talk about the book. And so, in keeping in line with the podcast, obviously I have to call this game Tit or Tat, because I'm nothing if not off on brand. This is really just a would you rather this or that kind of game, but neither of those names are as fun as Tit or Tat, which is why I'm calling it that. So, all of these items, things to eat, places to see, etc. They all come from today's reading, There's Something About Mary. So I'm going to put these to you, Angela, and you let me know which one you would choose. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Jingle Bells?
Oh, I'm going to go with Jingle Bells. Just because I always feel badly for Rudolph. I always just want to be his friend and take care of him because he was picked on. Maybe because I was bullied as a kid. I'm like, oh, Rudolph, I'll take care of you. We can spend Christmas together.
Kindred spirits.
Yes. I don't think of it as a holiday uplifting moment. I mean, they didn't like him until he had something to offer them. It's sad to me.
That is a great thing to point out. And honestly, I said Jingle Bells, although I think both songs are very annoying. So
what was it? Run Run Rudolph? I always think of Home Alone when they're running to the airport. So I was actually thinking of Run Run Rudolph too. That's another great song shout out.
Stop skipping ahead. This might be another question. How dare you? In fact, I will just skip to that one now and ask you Run Run Rudolph or Baby It's Cold Outside.
Oh, Run Run Rudolph.
I'm so torn on this one because I do think Run Run Rudolph is like such a great beat. And I know that Baby It's Cold Outside also has like its problematicness.
Which is also why I kind of didn't hesitate.
I do really love that song though. Like I think it's just, I love a good duet, and I think that's what I love about it. And I will never forget, I know there's a version of Baby It's Cold Outside where they switch roles, and it's I forget if it's, I want to say it's Selma Blair and Rainn Wilson. Like, I don't know why that's the pairing, but I think it was for like a commercial years ago where they switched the pairing, so it was more like she was trying to like get him to stay, and I did enjoy that. But I'll see if I can find it in the YouTube archives.
I know, now I'm curious because I like the idea of switching the roles, playing with the gender norms. I mean, I do have to admit, the book makes reference to the movie Elf, and
Yes.
I do think Zooey Deschanel's version, she has an incredible voice, so I will bow down to her and that rendition.
Okay, well, since you led to the next question, I'll ask you, Elf or National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
I love Elf. I really do. That's one of my favorites.
I do too. And I don't have anything against National Lampoon, but Elf I will watch multiple times a year when it is on TV.
I just enjoy that movie. It's so lighthearted and fun. And it's one of those movies where every single scene is on point. Every scene has the Christmas vibes, makes you happy, makes you laugh. And that is so rare for every single scene, every line of dialogue to truly hit home. That's why I think people love it so much. It's not just, oh, there's a great quote, there's a great scene. It is from beginning to end, pretty much cinematic perfection. I'm going out on a limb and calling it.
I think it's really, I agree. And if you haven't seen it, on Netflix, they do a series that's called The Movies That Made Us. And it's all about like how certain movies got made and like the process that went into them. And they did The Movies That Made Us holiday edition that was either last year or the year before. And I don't remember if they do Home Alone, but they do Die Hard, I know, is one. There's a few different Christmas ones, but they do Elf. And the process behind making Elf is really fascinating because it took years. It took years for them to get people attached to making the movie, especially because Will Ferrell was involved, and they're like, no, nobody will ever take that seriously because he's just been on SNL. And Jon Favreau was directing, and it was like his second movie that he was directing, and it was so much bigger than Swingers. And plus Swingers to Elf is like completely polar opposite. Yeah. So no, I really recommend that specific episode of Movies That Made Us. It's so interesting.
Well, I remember a couple of years ago it came out, they approached Will Ferrell and asked him to do a sequel or if he'd be interested. And I think they offered him something like $40 million and he turned it down.
God.
Yeah, he turned it down because he thought, no, the first one can stand on its own. I don't want to tarnish it. And I respected that reference and just him saying that so much because there really is something to creating art versus creating a commodity. And the
Yeah.
way he referred to it, it made me so happy. I'm going, you did create art. You just leave it alone.
You know what? I'll probably watch it this weekend, but
I know, it's making me want to go hang out, grab the little fur baby, make some hot cocoa, and just go enjoy
put
all
on
the
out.
laughter.
Well, this is so funny because literally you keep saying things that lead to like the next question. So I guess we'll go from I want to make hot cocoa to I said spiked hot chocolate or spiked eggnog.
So I actually don't really drink, and so I wouldn't even know which one to go with. I just go for all the classics because when it comes to hot cocoa, I always think, oh, can you even make it with water versus milk? What type of milk? Do you need whole milk, 2%? When it comes to eggnog, are we doing Southern tradition? Are we adding a little bit of cinnamon? Oh, okay, you're trying to do your 2% Chris Traeger from
How
Parks and
about how about just hot chocolate or eggnog? Like remove the spike. Like what's the preference there?
I think hot chocolate you can pretty much have
Me too.
anytime. I gotta be in the mood for eggnog. I almost have to
Mm.
say this is almost a meal unto itself because it's very heavy.
I usually will have like 1 cup of spiked eggnog every year at like a holiday party. And that's it. Like that's all that I can really stomach is like one cup of it a year. And that's enough for me. So, well, and in keeping in line with food and drink, my other question would be and this is something they mention these in the book. So, Mexican food for every meal or breakfast food for every meal.
Oh, breakfast food, hands down. I I am not someone who cooks very much, and I am someone who relies on making scrambled eggs, omelets. I love my cereal. I love my cereal and toast. Those are
Yeah,
staples.
I would too. And honestly, this would be another one where I would cheat and I'd be like, oh, can I just combine the two? Because like I love a Mexican breakfast. I also am like notorious for like if we go out for Mexican food and like you have leftover enchiladas or leftover beans and rice, I'll just like make some eggs the next day and put it on top of the leftovers. And
Good idea.
oh yeah, seriously, most leftovers, not everything, but most leftovers, if you just put a fried egg on top the next day, it's like a whole new meal.
I think your foodie family side is showing. You're like, we like our food. I can tell when you reference that. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I need to keep
Put an
that.
egg on top.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting because I like Thai food and sometimes that doesn't hold. I'm going, yeah, but if you had an egg, that would change the texture of it. Next time I order from the local Thai place, I might have to do that.
Well, and I know you mentioned the donut place that's in this book already, but there were 2 locations that had the cutest dang punny names. And so I'm going to ask you to choose between Kiss My Donut or Lord of the Fries.
Okay, Lord of the Fries is an epic name because they also had a logo to go with it in the book. It made me very happy. So that's almost the name with the logo.
Yeah. I would buy swag with both of these locations on it. Like the logo, the name, I love it. I have such a soft place in my heart for the fictional places and companies that then authors will create merch for. Like, oh, I have a shirt. Like I have a shirt with Honeywood Fun Park or Honeywood Theme Park, and it's from Julie Olivia's romance series that all takes place at like a fictional theme park. And I just love wearing it. And I'm like, oh my God, I want somebody to come up and ask me like what theme park this is. Like that's the best feeling is when you have like a fake business that you're representing and then people want it to be real.
Oh, you just reminded me because I have the Schitt's Creek Apothecary, the Rose
Yes.
Apothecary. I have that pullover, and every so often someone will see it and they'll nod at me because they get the reference.
They know. And then the final one I have for you, this is one that I'm struggling to come up with the answer, but I think I know what I'm leaning towards, and that is Home Alone on Christmas or Christmas with every family member you have.
First of all, I don't know how anyone would fit. I'm trying to think about someone's house
The
having every family member
logistics.
in there. I'm going, I don't even know how that would work. So I almost feel as if Home Alone has to be the answer because I know so many family members who've ended up across the states where I know someone's in Idaho, someone else is in California. I don't even know how every single person on the same roof would happen. So I almost have to say Home Alone. And I've done
Yeah.
the Home Alone on Christmas, so I think I have to go with that.
I don't know. I personally would rather be at home, comfortable. If I have to be alone, fine. But I live alone. I kind of keep myself company most of the time anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those people where I don't mind being by myself. I like to be able to be in my own space, do what I want to do when I want to do it. I have my little
Mm-hmm.
fur baby who keeps me company. I almost narrate my day to him, going, "Oh, today let's go do the
I
laundry,
love
let's
it.
go check email," and he looks up at me with his cute little face, and he's great company. So
Well, perfect. Mary Winters has the holiday blues. She's spent the last year learning to love herself, and now she's ready to find the right guy. But the pickings are slim in Mistletoe, Idaho, and it's just her luck that the man who catches her eye is the stoic new foreman at her family's Christmas tree farm. Too bad he wants to keep a 39.5-foot pole between them. Can I just say too, I like when I read that reference, I definitely did not get it. I was like, what are they talking about? 39.5 feet. And then when I said it aloud, I was like, oh, like the Grinch. It's like the Grinch song. Like, got it. Okay.
it
Single
took me a
dad.
minute as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're nodding, going, "Yeah, that went over my head the first
Yeah.
time."
Same. I literally had to say it aloud in order to get it. But anyway. Single dad Clark Griffin isn't looking for romance, but he wouldn't mind a friend to snuggle with on a cold winter's night. When he signs up for online dating, he doesn't expect to connect with the sassy, crafty, naughty girl 25, Knotty, just yeah, and get wrapped up in every message she writes. But when Mary turns out to be his blind internet date, his surprise causes him to miss his chance under the mistletoe. Can a little Christmas magic give these two a second chance at a first impression? Bum bum bum. Yeah. So overall, I will say I found this book very cute. I think I really enjoyed the first half of it a lot. Not that I disliked the second half by any means, but I do think there was a bit of a slowdown in the middle for me that took a while to get into. And I know I talk about this on the podcast all the time. I'm not as much of a fan these days of like that third act breakup moment sort of thing. So I will say this book doesn't have that. It's one of those books where they kind of get together and then, oh no, I realize that you're the person I've been internet dating. There's going to be like some sort of issue that ensues, but they do get together probably by like the 50 to 60% mark of the book. And for the rest of the book, they're together. And it's less about what's going to happen to us and more of like, oh, there's some other things that are going on outside of our relationship. We need to deal with these things together. And I find those really comforting reads, especially around the holidays, because you're not really worried. Like you're not concerned. And we know that with a romance, it's going to end happily anyway. But I do enjoy these reads because then I don't have to worry about them having some stupid misunderstanding or breaking up right before Christmas. And so none of that happens, but I do think there's a bit of a lull in the middle, and that was probably my only like main complaint about this book.
I was nodding and I had to look it up. So I took a screenshot, and this is on page 295 of 375, 80% in my Kindle edition. And it has the line, "And he kissed her softly, in full view of her family, and her heart flipped. To our future," he murmured. I honestly thought she could have ended the book right there and I would have been happy. So
Yeah.
I took that screenshot because I almost felt as if the next 20% could have been a bonus. Let's buy the download, or let's see how they ended up, or let's do a follow-up. And that's
Yeah.
not a bad thing. I'm just saying the book felt as if you wanted to fall into this place and just stay there versus this is the typical romance narrative. So I think the approach is different, and it's a longer book. That's something else
Mhm.
I will note, because I did buy the Audible version of it, and I think it's 10 or 11
It's
hours.
over 10 hours. I saw it on Goodreads that it was like 10 hours,
Mhm.
30 minutes, something like
And
that.
yet, yeah, and then it's so much easier for me to read something fast, because I read much faster than when you listen to something like that.
Same.
So again, I probably cut that at least in half. So there is a little bit of a difference. I'm also not quite sure how some of the jokes would have worked when it came to the audio version, like
Mm.
naughty girl.
Yeah.
You kind of have to would understand what it was alluding to. But I did make that little note about the 80% mark because
Mhm.
I wasn't sure how this is going to progress because sometimes I have reservations when it's quote unquote low angst or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
going, how do you make this work? And she did it.
And
It
how do you
worked.
make it that long? Like,
Yeah.
how do you make it that long when there's not really that much conflict? And this
Mhm.
is something I've noticed in a few of my holiday romance reads so far. Like, I know we've been covering almost like an equal split of novellas and novels for Boobsmas this year. And obviously this episode is only our third one in the Boobsmas series for 2022, but I've recorded more by this point. And I've noticed that there's a good amount of full-length Christmas novels where there just seems like a lot of unnecessary filler. And I'm with you in that it's like, I feel like there were a few different places where I could have ended this book where I was like, oh, the end, like, oh, that's it, and I do love that we got to see, if you've read the previous book, it's about Nick and Noelle. So Mary's older brother, Nick, and Noelle, who more or less has basically like been adopted into their family. And so like you get to see them because this family is together all the freaking time. And not
Yeah.
only that, they all like live not in the same house, but they all like live on the same property where it's like Mary has her little tiny house down the hill, and Clark and his son, because Clark is the foreman now for the Christmas tree farm, he has his quarters like there. So I think it was really clever to make it feel very insular in that like there's all these people in this one place, but at the same time they also still have boundaries. Like they all still have their own sections, because we definitely are reading a few books for Boobsmas this year where it's more or less like two people in a cabin the entire book, and it feels a little claustrophobic at times. So I did like that about this one, was that yes, they're all technically in the same place, and even when they're in town, it's Mistletoe, Idaho. There's only so much town to explore, but they also each have their own space at the same time.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I did a 10,000 word novella for Read Me Romance, and I deliberately had only three characters because you only had 10,000 words to work
Sure.
with. So when it
Sure.
comes to something like that, it is so limiting and so hard to do. And with this book, because she did a longer version, she was able to have all these different characters and scenes. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my notes was there were several chapters and multiple scenes where the female protagonist Mary and our male lead Clark, they weren't even in the same scenes together. So there were multiple
Yeah.
scenes with just Clark and his brother Sam, or Mary and her girlfriends talking about how a man did her wrong, and she's talking about her crafting, and Mary with her mother. So it was kind of interesting to see that because when it comes to romance writing, there are some rules that you have to play by of, oh, they can only be separated for so many pages,
Mm.
or if you have a chapter where they don't have any contact or think about one another, rethink that. And so I think that was something that was interesting with this concept, and I think she did it really well.
I agree. And I love when we have other characters who we're clearly setting up for other stories. Like, at least in our minds, I know that we're thinking that his brother Sam is going to have a romance with her sister Holly, I think is the older
Probably.
sister. Yeah,
She
maybe.
she's the one who wants to go skydiving and do all these crazy
Yes.
things for her YouTube channel.
Yes. Although I will say, before we met Sam, I was thinking that we were maybe setting her up with the guy who's like the grumpy
Declan, the Grinch.
hardware store owner. Yeah, and so maybe I was a little confused. Like, was there another woman? Like, was there a friend or another
Well,
sister?
the one who had done wrong to her, who inspired the voodoo male appendage as her
Yeah.
pet store.
So maybe one of them will be with Declan, and one of them will, I mean, in my brain, I don't think this would fit the tone of what Codi Hall is writing here, but in my brain I'm like, yes, it's a polyamorous romance between Sam, Declan, the grumpy hardware store owner, and her sister Holly, who likes to go skydiving. I'm like, ooh, yes, love it. I don't think that's necessarily where Codi Hall is going with it. However, I'm, manifesting, right?
Well, maybe she could. We don't know.
Yeah, so I would not be shocked if we see more. I think the other thing about this book is it always kept going in different places that I didn't expect it to go. Like, we find out early on that Clark is a single father, and really interesting setup for him too that you don't see, I think, in a lot of romance, where not only is he the single parent, but he's really the only parent because his, college girlfriend gave birth and then just pieced out. Like, and I honestly, I'm not upset that we got to see that, because I like seeing different versions of, like, maybe an age-old story. So I found that really interesting. And then I didn't really think she was going to be a part of the story, but lo and behold, she comes rolling into town later on, and it again surprised me because I kept thinking, oh God, this is going to turn into like some creepy thing where she's going to want to get the kid back and they're going to have to fight and all this. And nope. She wanted some support from somebody she knew she could trust. She's asking him for some money to help out her and surprise her other child that she has. And she still doesn't really, it's never like a thing of, oh, I want to insert myself into our son's life. Like, I'm glad he's got a good dad. I'm glad you guys are doing well. Can you help me out? And then she's gone, and then she pieces out again. So I just kept getting surprised by a lot of the things. And I think the same went with when Mary, I guess this was one of the storylines that I didn't feel like if it was maybe 100% followed through, where Mary kind of is painted as like she moved back to town and she's doing like a million things. Like, she basically is asked to join every committee for every event and like help run things around town. And so I kept thinking, oh, okay, like maybe there's going to come the point where like she's overloaded. She has to ask for help. She has to realize sort of like what she wants to do. But she knows from the very beginning that she wants to basically run the Christmas tree farm. And then the crochet penis like thing that she creates becomes a sensation. So she's like, oh, now I'm going to open like an Etsy store and sell crochet penises. And I'm like, great. These are all great things. And then the festival that she's planning goes off without a hitch. There's no issues. So I guess I just kept waiting for like something to change there, or like something to go wrong, or something that would affect her character arc in some way. And I don't think it ever happened. So I was like maybe a little disappointed by that, but I don't know. Did you have that response at all?
She's pretty consistent from beginning to end. It was
Yeah,
almost a matter of her finding the right guy versus them growing as a pair. Clark had more growth than she did because she was
100%.
ready for the relationship. She was ready to fall in love. She just hadn't met the guy who was going to be her partner because she was cheated on. She had someone who stole money from her at one point in time. And so it was just a matter of Clark being able to develop vulnerability and be honest and upfront with her because he had the walls up. And
Mm-hmm.
even though he's a single father and he had a kind of relationship with the trees, so I kind of want to put that in air quotes because they only knew each other for a month or so before she got pregnant. And then even after that, he knew they weren't right together, but he was going to
Right.
stay with her for the sake of their son. He really had a lot of reservations about being in a relationship. And at some points, it almost felt unfair to put those burdens on Mary because she had to call him out a few times, and I had a
Mm-hmm.
few "you go girl" moments with her because she didn't take any of that flack from him because she goes, "Well, you don't really know me at all if you think I'm gonna be cruel or do that to you." And so she almost kinda had to cut those reservations off at the knees, and
Mm-hmm.
in a way, I'm grateful that she did and for Codi Hall for having her do that because I would not have been able to root for them as a couple or him as a character if that progressed too much longer
Yeah.
because they technically the book blurb I almost feel as if doesn't do this story justice or it kind of plays around with almost technicalities of sorts because they realize who one another they realize about their online personas pretty quickly into the book at probably the
Mm-hmm.
30%, 40% mark. And Mary already has her suspicions. She wants to be the Meg Ryan to his Tom Hanks. And she when he arrives, she knows exactly, yes, my suspicions were confirmed. He, however, totally taken aback. He left her at the bar with her friends as he walks out. And he really didn't grovel as much as I expected him to. She forgave him
Mm-hmm.
very quickly, and that was pretty much who she was throughout the entirety of the book. she called him out and he grew in those moments. Or even the ex-girlfriend, the mother of his child, she was so kind to her. There
Yeah.
was no animosity. And it was really funny because the ex-girlfriend there actually asked him, is she really that nice? And he goes, yeah, she is. That's just
Yeah.
her. There's no fakeness here. And that really was her characterization from point A to the very end with Z.
Yeah, and it's like I'm so glad to see like that kind of character, but at the same time it's like I do want to see like a little bit of growth, you know, and
Yeah.
there wasn't really room to grow because like when the book starts, she talks about how she's like, "Oh yeah, this last year I've been purposefully single, like I've been trying to work on myself." Like you even hear it in the synopsis and I'm like, "Well, that's great, but like we don't see any of that. Like that's not part of the story we see." And you made me think of another thing about Clark that to me I was like red flag was he talks about how he's from there. Like they went to high school together and he talks about how when they were in high school, he had like a crush on her and he's like, "Oh, I saw this opportunity. I was going to ask her out." And then like he didn't, and she, you know, was I think dating somebody at the time or like something, she was seeing some other guy, and she like gets in a car with the guy and he's like, "Oh, and I just knew like I couldn't ask you out ever again because I saw you get into somebody else's car." Like, and I don't know, it was just a really weird thing where he's like, I have like this formed opinion of her from high school. And it wasn't even that she did anything wrong. It wasn't like
No.
she ignored him or she said no to him or anything. It was, he literally never shot his shot. And he basically blamed her for that and like had this idea about her. So I don't know. I'm with you in that. I felt the same way about when he talks about Patrice and how he's like, I have this really skewed idea about like relationships. And I don't want to say it's not justified because like when we get the backstory about his parents and how like they never really were great parents and like maybe weren't the best example of a loving family, I'm like, okay, I can see where that would tie in to these ideas that he has about love and relationships. But to like project so much of that onto Mary, even when they're in high school,
Yeah.
like just felt so unfounded to me.
So we find out that she has a friend. His name is Ryan. He is adorable. He's interested in the Mr. Bartender, is the way she refers to him in the text message. I hope you have found Mr. Bartender later on. So he went to the bar to meet the new guy who was employed there, and he drives her home after Clark rejects her, and she's all upset, and she's had a couple drinks, so she's not going to drive. And Clark sees this and he immediately assumes she went home with the first guy who showed her attention because she has a
Yeah.
pattern and she fell back into it. And he doesn't find out until several pages later that nothing happened. And then it's probably chapters before he finds out who the friend was. And then he realizes, oh, this is Ryan. He's not into women. Wait a second, it's fine. But he immediately assumed she went home with the guy, spent the night with him. And I was really disappointed in him for that.
Also, like, what pattern? Like, he's like, oh, yeah, she's falling back into patterns. I'm like, what patterns? You haven't seen this woman in years. And also, like, your established pattern, like, the idea of an established pattern she has is that she might be dating somebody else. Like, that's called, like, human dating. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It was just clearly an example of somebody like projecting so much of like their own insecurities onto somebody else, which obviously if you're single in 2022, you know, is like a thing that people do. But it's alienating in a way where you're like, oh, I don't want her to be with you right now because you're not making good choices for yourself. Like, bro needs some therapy. Like, you need to like take care of yourself and have the year that Mary has just had with herself to kind of like realize what she needs and wants. You need to be doing this for yourself too. So yeah, that was a little difficult, especially because I'm just so tired of reading, not that I would call him an alpha hero, but I'm just so tired of reading these like alpha assholes who like want the women to be like their women. And I will say that is something that they did both say in the book that does, it's just a personal ick of mine, is I don't like when people are like, yeah, that's my man, or like, she is mine kind of thing. And they both referred to each other that way in the book. And that doesn't work for me personally.
Oh, it's so funny. I'm kind of like nodding. So I have the title of my little novella is "Knew You Were Mine," and it's in reference to a quote of "I knew you were my soulmate," and so it was
Mm.
in reference to like you only get one soulmate. I knew you were mine, and I was so proud of that line. I was so proud of my title. But even I'm kind of nodding because they used the terminology more so before they established, "Oh, I'm your boyfriend. I'm your girlfriend."
Yes.
And that was why I kind of will give you that, like, yeah, maybe that happened a little quickly because I actually pulled it up because we were referencing the timeline almost with this relationship. And one of the reasons why I think the book is a little longer is because it starts the day after Halloween. And so
Mm-hmm.
she only technically starts talking to him on November 1st. And so he's pretty much saying, I'm going to spend my life with you by Christmas. So their relationship
Mm-hmm.
is full pedal to the metal from the get go. So maybe that's part of why you're kind of going,
Yeah.
cool thoughts.
And it's interesting because while some of it feels very fast, I also think there were some like really beautiful moments where I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like too forced. Like I love that at one point she's with his son and she's great with him. She's great with kids. And he says something to her like, oh, if and when like you and my dad are like together or whatever, like I just want you to know that like I think you guys should get married. Like I approve of like you whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cute. Like, sure. And there would just be moments where I'm like, oh, this feels very natural. Like we've been on some dates, but like we don't really know what our relationship is. So like we're gonna be kind of awkward and not define it, but then like also make out.
It was cute
Yeah, they're
though.
cute. I thought the family dynamics were great. I really liked I really liked all of the characters. Like I'm definitely invested, especially because Sam is like is Clark's older brother by like 10 years. He's got tattoos. He's a tattoo artist. He rides a motorcycle. I'm like, "Ooh, yeah. Like I want your story. I'm very interested in your story." And so but then at the same time, like we said, I wanted to know more about that grumpy hardware store owner who we hardly ever get to see. We just get to hear about him. So I don't know. I don't know what comes next, but I think I will read it. Like I do want to see what comes next. That's the tough part.
When it comes to Sam, I kind of have a little bit of my radar up because he very much admits to himself being a ladies' man. He talks
Mhm.
about his one night stands. He says, "Oh, don't worry, I won't bring anyone back here with the kid," meaning he's going to go to her place. He's just
Yeah.
very candid and very much gives off the player vibe. So that's something where I kind of will read it and go, okay, let's see how you change over the course of this narrative. At least I
Yes.
hope you
I
do.
It's
So
so true. Like I call them reformed fuckboys. I'm like, I want to see who is the person that changes your ways. Like who they're the ones that I'm usually most interested not in real life, but like in books where I'm like, "Oh, what's going to change this for you? Like who is it? Who's going to bring you to your knees?" So I'm excited about that. And I will say, as we head into sharing, a excerpt or two, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of heat in this book. Like, I definitely, I'm still a little bit jaded. And this is so silly to say because I wrote a spicy holiday novella with an illustrated cover. But when I look at illustrated covers, and especially for holiday romances, my immediate thought is no, this isn't going to be sexy. And so then I'm pleasantly surprised when there is open door on the page sex scenes. And this book has a few of them. So, did you have a specific moment or scene that you found a bit spicy and wanted to share?
So I actually made some notes about the love scenes because I was kind of curious. So first, he is the one who performs certain acts, and then it's her turn,
Yes.
and then it's the both of them. So we have the natural progression of foreplay to full on, but I was kind of concerned about the second act because he is driving as she performs her act on him. And
Oh,
she's
I'm
also a
so glad
little
you brought it up.
she's also a little drunk and she has to clarify, I'm tipsy, not drunk. And again, if you have to give that caveat, I kind of don't fully trust your judgment, but he's driving the car and they live in the mountains, so I'm guessing it's not the safest truck ride
Yeah,
home.
I will say I was not expecting Roadhead. Like I wasn't expecting it. Like it's not something that I usually get to read. Like I've definitely read where people hook up in cars. I've read it where like maybe they get a little frisky like in the car ride home and like we have to pull over to like, you know, bang it out. But I was not expecting for her to go down on him as he is driving, and it's like snowing and they live in the mountains, and I'm with you. I was like, wow, we're really going there. Like and that was in fact the scene that I highlighted, because I was like, it's not that I don't think it's a good scene, but I had to rewind a couple times to be like, wait a second, like the car is in motion, like he is actively driving.
That's why I was kind of going, I'm not sure what to do with this, because everything in this book is well written, but it was a well written scene that didn't appear to go with the rest of the narrative. It kind of came out of the blue for me in a way.
Yes.
Because again, we have a very Christmassy, lighthearted, we have a character who, again, I'm not trying to say she's a prude in any way, shape, or form, but she kind of gives off a very good girl vibe. And all of a sudden, this was her idea. She initiated this. And
I definitely did not see it coming. Like I've got like a little excerpt from there. So this is, you know, again, that scene, and this is right after they get in the car, and she's like kissing him, and he says, "Mary." He groaned as her hand slid over his leg and cupped his rigid cock. His grip on her thigh tightened as she rubbed him, her other hand undoing his belt buckle. "What are you doing?" She freed the button of his slacks and pulled the zipper down slowly as her teeth grazed his ear. "Just watch the road." Easier said than done, right? Clark took his hand off her thigh as she stretched across the middle console. Also, like, she can't be wearing a seatbelt, like, if she's doing this. Like, there's no way.
I knew that. Yeah, I made a mental note of that one too. I'm going, okay, the position of this says, it reminded me of that movie The Vow with Rachel McAdams and Channing Tatum. If he hit on the brakes, she was going through that window.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking about in this scene.
For sure. Across the middle console, listening as his breathing grew ragged above her when she shimmied the elastic of his boxer briefs and pants down his hips. Thankful that he lifted up without being asked. Okay, I'm going to pause there again, because I'm just like, I know that like I've been in the car before where like you're sitting on something or you're trying to get something out of your pocket, and like you have to like kind of lift up to like get it out. But like if your foot is on the gas, you're going to hit the gas even harder. Like if that happens, like just in a reflex. And so, yeah, I cannot fathom this whatsoever. Wrapping her hand around his shaft, she pulled him from the confines of the boxer briefs, sweeping her tongue across its head and down along the corded length. "Fuck, Mary." The rough edge in his voice rushed through her like a drug as she took him all the way in, sucking him while the pulse inside her beat faster, remembering his mouth on her. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, I'm like, this is in no way a scene I would ever want to recreate whatsoever. Took me by surprise, so I'll give her that.
This is still technically their first date, though.
Yeah.
So I pulled it up in my iPad with the Kindle app, and so the lovemaking scene also doesn't last as long as I was kind of expecting either. So we have a little bit of foreplay. Obviously, we have the car foreplay, but we have different foreplay when they get back to the actual. Do we call this her house? Because it's technically a cabin. I'm not really sure how you call it, but it only lasts, I think, 2.5 pages technically, and I think I actually really liked almost his in the moment confession. And it says, "Don't leave me," he whispered against the back of her neck, his lips pressed against her skin. "Please don't leave, period, ever, period." The raw emotion in his voice tore at her heart, and she turned her head to meet his lips, cupping the back of his head. The air which charged around them hummed with sex, and when his thrusts intensified, she gasped against his mouth. "I'm not going anywhere. Do you understand? I'm yours." So I actually liked the dialogue more than the act itself, in a way. And I don't mean that in an overly analytical, but as a reader who I think was expecting a little bit more of that romantic tenderness, I appreciated the fact it was included. It wasn't just hot and heavy. The dialogue added that tenderness I was looking for and hoping for.
Good.
It wasn't, oh, it's so sexy. It took off from where I was expecting. The dialogue still gave me the love that I was hoping for instead of just the hot and heavy.
And that's good, because at the end of the day, it is a romance, and there's some romances I like because they're very hot, but at the same time, you still want to feel them falling in love. Like, you still want to have that emotional connection with the characters, and you want to see the emotional connection amongst the characters as well. So I'm glad that you got, at least a little bit of that. But well, this is perfect because this leads to our final part of the episode where we give this book some ratings. And I don't think much has changed since the last time you were here. We typically grade for heart, humor, and heat on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be for you, of course. And for, 'tis the season, we've added an extra rating, and that is for holiday. So heart, humor, heat, holidays, 1 to 10, 10 being as high as you can go. Let's start with heart. What do you think?
So the ending definitely gave you all of the heart. You have to kind of give this book a high rating. And I am also, when it comes to grading, I'm a very easy grader. This book definitely is probably going to get all high marks for me because at the very end, we have that hallmark adorableness that I think any
Yeah.
romance Christmas reader's looking for. Clark decorated a tree for her, which first of all is already adorable unto itself, but he decorated the tree with ornaments he made with his woodworking skills,
Ugh.
and they're all ornaments that reference their relationship and the key moments. He also did
Yeah.
one of the dogs she rescued, and he got his son to help out. It's very, very sweet, and it gave me all of the feels. They're showing their love across the board. The
Yeah.
family, I also have to say, oh my gosh, her mother, Victoria, the way she acts around Clark and his son is absolutely adorable. This woman invites this boy Jace to play chess with her. She wants to hang out with him and bake cookies with him. The way she adopts him into the family, oh, you just ugh.
No, I'm with you. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I was like, I'm with you on all of this. And also him giving her the Christmas tree with like the homemade woodworked ornaments of like things between the two of them. It's the perfect example of a grand gesture where it like actually makes sense. Like, it's not just like holding up the boombox moment. It like makes sense for them as a couple. Like, he's using his skills and like her interests, like her family owns the Christmas tree farm, to literally be like, this is like the culmination. This is such a good blend of like the two of us, like on this tree. I think the only reason I'm taking away a point is like, dude needs some therapy. Like he just like, I'm like, you could have been a much better partner from the get-go if you weren't letting yourself get in the way. How about humor?
Oh, this book had me laughing, and there is one scene in particular I absolutely kind of lost it at. So I mentioned before, Mary saves the dog, who becomes known as Daisy, and the man who was not nice to the dog, let's just go with that. I'm trying to hold back, but you know how I feel. You can read between the lines. He comes back into play drunk. He drives up with his truck to the farm, and they think he's gonna maybe lose his mind. I don't know if she thinks he has a gun, he's gonna get violent, but they're very concerned this awful man is there. And he starts unleashing chickens onto their property. It was the most bizarre form of warfare, she
Yeah,
thought.
I
And
definitely
then
did not see that part coming. Like, I like to think I can like predict a lot of things that happen, but to say I was more than surprised when he just opens up the door and is like, well, you took everything else of mine. You might as well have these chickens. I'm just like, wow, this went to a place I didn't realize we were going.
it gets better than that, though, because it's not just him giving chickens. The mother, Victoria, is so excited to have chickens. She wants the fresh eggs in the morning. And so
Yep.
she starts looking to round up the chickens. Oh, we have this extra area. And they start talking about how they're going to take care of them. And I'm going, this is the most ridiculous, absurd thing I've ever come across. It blew my mind.
Chickens out of the blue. Okay, so out of 10, what do we think?
So I'm going to give her high marks again. I can't help it. Plus, every time Jace opened his mouth, I was smiling. It wasn't necessarily laugh out loud humor, but oh, this boy is being so mean to me. What did he say, sweetie? I'm so concerned about you. He doesn't like Spider-Man. He likes DC more than Marvel. And I'm going, oh, that is so not the bullying I remember.
Stupid kid bullshit. That's like not even a thing. Yeah, no, I'm with you. The chicken one definitely got me. I of course love a good crochet penis leading to like a career, I'm like, yeah, great, awesome, throw it in. Yeah, I gave this book, I was like, it's definitely, I still wouldn't necessarily think of it as a rom-com because I think a lot of the comedy isn't actually part of the romance itself. It's more on the
Very true.
periphery. And
True.
which is fine. Like I still love those like fun moments with the family and the friends. So I gave this one like a 7. And I think overall it's on the lighter side, although there are some like darker elements when it comes to talking about Clark and Jace's past, and then especially with like Clark and Sam's parents, who like we never meet the parents, but we do basically hear about how they were bad parents. And so you
But
know,
his was more neglect than anything
yeah.
else. That's where I think the difference comes because Patrice, the ex-girlfriend, comes back and actually tells him for the first time in throughout the history of the relationship that she was abused as a child,
Mhm.
and that thrown in there kind of had me sit up as a reader going, "Whoa, I read that correctly, didn't I?" But
Mhm.
Jace and Sam, their parents just didn't celebrate Christmas or didn't take care of them, so it wasn't as if they were hitting them or verbally
No.
abusive. It was just they ignored their children. They
Yeah.
just shouldn't have been parents. So it's a different type of abuse. It's still abuse, don't get me wrong. I am
Right.
so not defending that. But again, I think neglect doesn't lend to what he had in regards to his reservations with Mary. The
Yeah.
way he felt about her, those emotions are very different than his childhood trauma. So I do understand why you're kind of going, oh, Clark, therapy.
Seriously, God, even if you're like you had a great upbringing, therapy. Like we could all do with a little bit of it, my friends. So yeah. How about the heat? Where did we land on that?
So again, the heat took me by surprise. So it was very sexy. I mean, they definitely had their lovemaking moments. So they were not afraid to steam up the sheets.
Mhm.
But again, I almost expected after that to have more on the
Yeah.
page scenes. So the one that we talked about, that was it. Because after the fact, it's all closed doors.
Mhm.
After that buildup, I'm thinking we're going to be getting more explicitness and have all the different things. And
Yeah.
I almost don't know how to play with this because the
Mhm.
scenes that happened were very sexy. But after that, I thought there were going to be more sexy scenes coming my way.
I agree. I split it. I for me, when it comes to like the heat level, I always, if there's on the page open door, I always give it at least a 5. I'm like, great, we've gotten to the point where like we're halfway there, the door is open, like let's see what happens next. I would probably put this between a 6 and a 7, just because like we do get a little bit more. We get some foreplay, we get some like steamy kisses. So I'm like, okay, that's great. But you're right. There's not much that happens after the first time that they have sex. So
Which is interesting to me because I think in a way, the first time with romance characters, it's almost the buildup of something
yeah,
where, okay, now we have the trust and let's see where this goes from
yeah,
here. Let's see what emotions are revealed and what lines of dialogue slip out. So I almost could see more of these scenes being included if she would ever have a second printing of this
hmm,
book or wanted to do a bonus scene or something. I definitely see that love scene as the potential. Yes, there was the sexy times, but we don't get that when they're an actual couple, which is why I was so surprised
yeah,
because that's when I think the writer can have some fun of, oh, these characters love each other and they trust each other implicitly.
yeah.
Where do we go from here? And so that's an opportunity.
That's what I look for in most romance books. When you know that there's going to be like open door scenes, is like, I expect there to be 2 scenes. I expect there to be the first time that they have sex scene, and I expect there to be the first time they have sex and realize they're in love scene, because I think they're 2 different scenes. And even in a novella, and when I say sex, I don't mean that it has to be like a P and V situation. Like it could just be a hot hookup. It could be like a really steamy makeout session, like whatever it might be. I do think there's usually a difference between those 2 scenes, and people love to see the super hot, we're finally banging out the tension scene, but then they also want to see but this is what elevates it from erotica to romance, is like we have this moment of the emotional connection outweighing the physical connection.
We do get that in a way with the son who there's a moment again, I think this character, she's that best friend who's going to take care of you and be awesome. Mary takes care of his son when he's sick,
Yeah.
and when he comes home and sees that she took care of him, he does pull her in for that kiss. So you do
Yes.
get that moment. I'm not angry.
Yes.
So your two scenes, you technically got two different scenes, because that would be the all of my passions are overflowing and I
Mm-hmm.
must kiss you now. So you do get that.
And maybe it just happens off the page for them. Maybe that second, really steamy scene between the two of them, that's more of like the love making. Maybe that's off the page for them, and that's okay. Okay, now how about holiday? Because I feel like, especially when you take into account that, all their freaking names are Mary, Nick, Noel, Holly. They live in Mistletoe, Idaho. They own a Christmas tree farm.
She's organizing the local Christmas tree event for the charity.
I have to give this one a 10 when it comes to holiday. Like, there's no way around it.
Oh, I think it should be a 10 plus, 10 with an asterisk, because every single scene and every reference, they have the movie references, they have the song references, they have the Christmas related food and
Mm-hmm.
snacks and drinks. This woman, I don't know if she went on Pinterest and made all of the boards, but she took every Christmas vibe and found a way, because we even get into gift giving,
Mm-hmm.
and we figure out, okay, gift giving is Clark's love language, and he's going to make he really does have sweet moments, though. He
Yeah.
makes these beautiful wood chairs for the parents, Chris and Victoria, and he gives them early. And you have, again, all these thoughts and emotions behind the Christmas gifts
They
that he's
dress
worked
up as Santa and Mrs. Claus for the
for the
freaking like
parade.
parade. Her mom buys them all matching outfits to wear for like a family photo, including, for Clark, his brother, and his son.
He also decorates her yard with Christmas lights, because she was just going to
Yes.
have a projector, but that's not good enough. You can't just have a
Yes.
projector.
There is not one scene in this book that is not related to Christmas in some way.
Oh, 10 plus.
Yeah.
Easy.
10 plus
Easy
easy.
ranking. This is the perfect book for someone who just wants to fall into a story knowing that there's a happy ending and it
Mm-hmm.
has the Christmas feels.
Mm-hmm.
Because these characters, yes, Clark has this issue, but they are likable, and
Yeah.
the other characters make you laugh. So there is something to this where I feel as if you just want to fall into a book and have those romance Christmas feels, this is kind of the book for you.
And there you have it. And I know that this episode has been like a little longer and will be a little longer than some of the holiday romances we're reviewing for Boobsmas, but that tends to happen when Angela and I get together. And so that's absolutely fine. I don't know if we said it before, but can you just tell everybody where they can find you and the 12 Days of Cozies content?
Oh, absolutely. So for my personal website, it's angelamariahart.com. And you can find me as writer A Hart on Twitter and Instagram. And my last name's Hart, Hart. I always thought it was fun calling my channel Books Are My Heart on YouTube, because, again, I love my punny titles, as you can tell. And then it's the Cozy Mystery Book Club. So it's thecozymysterybookclub.com. And I have links for everything. There's a drop down list for Christmas. There is the link for 12 Days of Cozies 2022. And it is at Cozy Mystery Club across platforms. I have everything ready to go. There are giveaways across platforms. And I wanted to do that because I know people can't always participate on every social media platform, or time differences come into effect. That's why I thought something as simple as opening a newsletter could enter you being like the easiest thing you can do. So I've got you covered no matter the platform. We have Instagram story challenges and Instagram giveaways, Twitter giveaways, and Twitter reading sprints and author chats. So hopefully you can take part in some of the coziness, and hopefully you even win a story or two, because there's a lot of things. And I'm just really looking forward to celebrating cozy mysteries and seeing what happens this year, because I've spent probably the better part of 2022 working on content. So there is a little bit of nerves finally putting that out into the universe, but I really hope people enjoy it, because I had freelance graphic designers create these just amazing images that I'm excited to include in newsletters, and these graphics and these adult coloring book pages and so many other things. So I really want people to be able to enjoy them. So it is, again, just kind of my love letter to cozy mystery readers. So please take part and enjoy, because I love making content, but I don't do it for myself. I do it for the people. So hopefully the people will enjoy it.
Huzzah! I'm so excited. No, I, for one, am very excited. And, obviously check out all the places Angela just gave you. I'll be sure to pop links into the show notes. And without further ado, I think there's nothing else for us to say except On the third day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 3 butt plugs.
On the third day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 3 butt plugs, 2 nipple clamps, and a hot hook up underneath the tree.